Post your questions down below and you might just be in the next Q&A video. So let's get started. My neck is way too long and I don't want to wear any t-shirts. You got some tips to make it look shorter? Absolutely. What you want is to build your neck as much as possible. Get it so thick that you no longer notice the length of it. Rather, the width is what catches your eye. It gives you that stumpier appearance, if you will. So make neck training the number one priority. Secondly, build up your traps. This will give the illusion of a shorter neck. The higher your traps elevate, the shorter the distance, right? From an illusion standpoint. Then lastly, grow out your beard. Just 2 inches of length will do a lot for you in making your neck look shorter. And if you want to go even longer, eventually you're not even going to see the neck because it's going to be completely covered by the beard. So that's what I recommend. Grow out the beard a little bit, make neck training a priority, get your traps as jacked as possible. Done deal. This is what's going to work the most. Why is my dumbbell overhead press stronger than my barbell overhead press? I'll tell you why. You're probably doing half reps like this, okay? Which is what a lot of people do instead of going all the way down. So half reps will automatically add a ton of weight to this exercise. Like, it's unbelievable. You see guys who struggle to get their first rep from the full range of motion, or they need a spot to do it. And then the next repetition is a joke to complete. So touch your shoulders on the way down, and please don't be flaring out your elbows. Just tuck a little bit. It's going to be fine. You're not going to have any shoulder pain. And then secondly, a lot of guys, they turn it into a high incline, okay? They lean into the bench, so it's not really a shoulder press at that point. So if you want to make it really strict, maybe stand up while doing it. Although even with that, you could lean back. The strictest way to do it is by just sitting down without back support. Now that's tough. Or you do a Z press. Okay, that's very, very difficult. So what's going on here is you're probably doing half reps. Okay, you see these big, bulky dumbbells, and you're not even, like, that in itself already makes it less range of motion, but you're doing half reps on top of that, hence why you can lift so much. And then you're doing the incline at the same time. And some guys actually use a high incline bench when they do this, which is pretty funny. So it's not a shoulder press in that case. Howdy Alex, don't have a belt to attach weight for pull-ups. For the meantime, should I just go for 3 sets of 20? That would be an excellent way to train. 3 sets of 20 is fantastic, and it's automatically going to make you stronger at weighted pull-ups, and you're going to get a lot of size from that too. So if you can do that, go ahead. I'd also advise using advanced variations on rings and anything that makes the movement more difficult. And you might want to also use higher sets, low rest. Okay, so something like a 10 by 10 pull-up. That's going to challenge anyone. I don't care who you are. So there are options like that, but another thing that you could try is to put the dumbbell between your legs. Okay, you can easily load up 100 pounds and it's not going to slip out. That's what I used to do. And then once I got to 100 pounds, I was like, okay, it's not really that feasible. So I got the dip belt and it made all the difference. So I did that for dips and pull-ups for a long time. I recommend you do the same. So bring a dumbbell, put it between your legs, cross it up. Good to go. You don't need a dip belt for that. All right. But honestly, like, you should get a belt. It's going to cost you what? $20, $30? It's inexpensive. All right. And it's going to serve you in a major way. If I go to school by bicycle, will it affect my legs? It's a 30-minute route every day, twice a day. Parts of recovery, I don't think this is going to be problematic because this is something that you do 7 days a week, every day, okay? It's not even working out at this point. It's simple commuting, and you will adapt. If this is what you do year in after year out, every single day, twice a day, you're going to adapt 100%. There's no question about this. It's similar to those who do manual labor jobs, and they still go to the gym. They still make incredible gains. Some of the best old-school lifters did serious manual labor. And they still had time for training. And biking 30 minutes on a route that you're familiar with, a route that you regularly take, it's going to be fine. Maybe at the beginning it's going to cause you problems, but over the long term, like, you will adapt 100%. And I wouldn't worry about this whatsoever. This is just something that you do. It's not even training at this point. It's good cardio. You can actually skip the treadmill and all the other stuff, but I don't think it's going to negatively impact your recovery in the long run. Maybe initially it will, but once you adapt, it's going to be just fine. And in regards to affecting your legs beyond that point, this might also act as a form of nucleus overload. Because you're hitting your legs with such high frequency, I believe you might increase the nuclei within the legs themselves. That'll make them easier to build going down the road. And if you want some information about that, check out my interview with Megan of Team 3D Alpha. Simple question, do you think pull-ups and deadlifts are enough to build a whole back? I tried all row variations, but I've got no satisfaction from doing them. Merci de ta réponse, mon ami. La France te salue. Merci pour ta question. Je vais t'aider, mais en anglais parce que c'est plus facile pour expliquer. Given the fact that you've been doing barbell rows for a long period of time and you already acquired much gains from doing so, I believe if you were to switch to doing pull-ups and deadlifts, your back would probably be fine because you already have that base level of strength acquired and you've already made rows a priority in the past, just like I did. Okay, I used to do a lot of cheat rows, all that good stuff. And even though I don't do that right now, my back still looks incredible. I think I've maintained pretty much all the gains except for maybe the spinal erectors, but that's due to the lack of heavy pulls. So if I were to only do like weighted pull-ups and rack pulls, for example, I think I'd be fine realistically because even right now, I'm not even doing the pulls, just heavy pull-ups, that's all. And my back looks incredible, okay? So I would say given your particular circumstances, the fact that you train barbell rows so seriously for all this time and now you're going to make the switch to doing deadlifts and pull-ups, I think you'll be fine from that perspective alone. But despite that, would I call this optimal? No. Just because something is effective does not make it optimal. I believe that the best way to train your back is by doing it all. So doing rows, pull-ups, and your heavy stuff, whether it be pulling from the ground or in a rack or whatever, all right? And then even doing shrugs on the side, I believe that can supplement your training in addition to accessory work like band face pulls and all that. So I believe in doing it all, but realistically, since you have your base level of strength acquired, if you were to just do pull-ups and deadlifts, I think you'll be fine. And if you're not fine, then you can just reintroduce the rows and everything's going to be okay. But on a side note, I'd also recommend that you start doing some band rows. So don't drop the rows 100% because it's good for your scapular health and all that. So do some band rows, high volume, maybe on a volume day. You're good to go, my friend. When would you recommend a lay beginner who is not obese to cut? After reaching certain strength levels or after a set amount of time? Would remain in a higher body fat, promote body dysmorphia? I will say you should cut whenever the fuck you feel like it, okay? That's not for me to decide. If you feel like you're too fluffy and you want to lean down, go ahead. If you're content with the higher body fat and you want to rock the bear mode, go ahead. The aesthetics are subjective. If you want to be leaner for health reasons, go ahead. There's no rule. Some people are perma-bulkers. The moment they start lifting, they just bulk for years and years and years. Then maybe they'll do a cut in a long time from now, but most of the time they just stay on the fluffier side. So you do what you want. I'm not going to speak for you in regards to that. Now for your second question, body dysmorphia, right? Would being in a higher body fat promote that? I don't think so. If anything, being shredded is going to promote that more. But then again, like we can argue for both sides. If you're Mr. Higher Body Fat, you might become obsessed with the idea of being big. Whereas if you're lean, you might be obsessed with the idea of being like super shredded. So there's pros and cons to both. Body dysmorphia is something that plagues most serious lifters, whether they're lean or not. If it's not about being big, it's strength dysmorphia, or your face is a little bit too fat, or you're not veiny enough. There's always some thing that people aren't happy about with themselves. And I think you're going to figure that out with experience, So whether you're lean or you're high body fat, I think the body dysmorphia is going to kick in nonetheless. Yo, Alex, I'm a 16-year-old with less than 150 pounds, and I'm roughly 5'8". I've been lifting seriously for over a year, and I can squat 285 acid grass and hex bar deadlift 380, but I can only bench 180. You have any tips that can help me improve my bench? In my opinion, your bench is not really a weak point. This is quite balanced, and especially given your weight being less than 150 pounds, it's really not that bad. Your pound for pound strength is pretty good. The numbers are where they should be at. This is balanced to me. And you have to factor in your age too. Like, this is not bad. This is not bad at all. And I don't think that your bench is as bad as you claim it is. It's not, all right? So my advice for you is to keep raising your strength because you're balanced. Just keep doing what you're doing and maybe eating a calorie surplus, get that weight above 150 pounds, and your bench is going to continue to shoot up. But I don't see an issue here. I really don't. Just keep getting stronger on the basics and going to calorie surplus. Everything's going to be fine. Like, it's already fine, okay? So that's what I got to say about that. All right, this guy's question, he actually wrote 150 for the second point, but I want to rephrase it to 105 because I think it makes it more interesting. What is the difference between me? 105 kilo bench at 75 kilos and a powerlifter that benches 105 kilos, 75 kilos. The physical differences, neural adaptations, etc. Okay. Let's say you never ran a powerlifting or bench press specialization system. And then you have the same number as a competitive powerlifter. You can both bench 105 kilos. What would be the physical differences between you two? I would suspect that you will be more muscular looking because that powerlifter had to run a system that was so specific, so tailored for that exercise that he might be missing out on other stuff. And I believe that from a proportion standpoint, he would have gained more strength than you because his system is directly on point for that. Like, this is specific to the absolute max, all right? So I believe that super specific training can allow you to gain a bit more strength than someone who's not doing it. So therefore, you might not see the same size correlation, all right? So I think that if you got to 105 kilos without doing any form of crazy training, maybe you ran a standard bodybuilding routine, I imagine you would be more jacked, all right? And the powerlifter would be much more proficient at the bench in terms of the movement pattern, and his programming would obviously be better. But because of that, he's not going to be as jacked, because maybe if he ran a routine like you, his bench would only be at 90 kilos. You know what I'm saying? So that's my twist on your question. Thoughts on Josh Bryant's neck twisting method? Yeah, there was a video where he was with this guy who was doing like a neck curl, and then he twists like that, okay? I don't know what to make of it. I've never done that. Like I always say about neck training, you have to have experience. If you don't have experience with neck training, you shouldn't be speaking about it. It's just the truth, okay? Because neck training is a very unique type of thing. And once you get in the trenches and you experience it for yourself, you'll realize how unique it is and how the results are gained. So if he's saying that this will build your neck, then it probably works, you know? How much? I don't know. Is it better to just do a neck curl, neck extension with weight? Probably. But I've never done it, so I'm not going to comment. Thoughts on nutritional yeast? It's good stuff. I use it for a lot of my recipes, a lot of my meals. It's just a fun thing to add, and it makes everything better. For those who miss the cheese, it kind of replicates that. It has like a nutty, cheesy flavor, if you will. So it's good stuff, and I recommend it for anyone who's following a plant-based diet, or even if you're not. It's good to add to your cooking, man. Alex, during an overhead specialty phase for a shoulder issue, is it best to drop all horizontal pressing, or are push-ups and close grip okay to do, just less frequently, once a week? Depends on what your situation is, how bad the shoulder pain is. If it's really bad, I'm going to say drop the horizontal presses completely, but maybe still include some push-ups, because that actually tends to help. I'm going to say that you should be doing primarily overhead press, and if you're going to do a bit of horizontal, maybe once a week like you indicated. So something like that is a balanced approach, but in the event where it's like really bad, then drop it and maybe just leave the push-ups in. So it's best to keep it specific as possible, and minimize the horizontal pressing if you're having serious shoulder issues. Just my opinion. Do you think there's a natural limit to strength? I don't necessarily think there's a limit, but rather your strength slows down so much that you might call it one. So if you're only adding 2.5, 5 pounds to your lift every single year, I mean, you haven't hit the limit. It's just really, really slow progress. You're not going to see significant changes in your muscular appearance, like you just won't. But you'll still make a few neural adaptations every once in a while. On top of that, if you look at this from a general perspective, you can always change sports or change your activities. So there's no limit in regards to that. So if you've been doing bodybuilding your whole life, well, maybe you could switch to MMA or freaking swimming, or I don't know, even CrossFit, for example, calisthenics. Just because you hit your quote-unquote limit on one thing doesn't mean you have it for the next. So fitness encompasses much more than just muscle and strength. It could be skill work. It could be tricking. It could be whatever you want it to be. So I'm going to say there's no limit in regards to that, because you can always switch from one field to the next. Okay, you mastered the bench press, move on to gymnastics. See how good you are at that. That's not a limit. What are your thoughts about 5x5 for novice lifter? Obviously it works, man. Check out my video on 5x5. There's a reason why a lot of novice programs utilize it. Although I will say that in many cases 3x5 tends to be equally as effective, since the recovery is not as much of an issue, okay? Oftentimes you'll see guys who can get 5, 5, 5, and then maybe they'll get 4, 4, which can slow down the progress a little bit, because now you have hindered recovery, and you have to make up by hitting the extra 5 reps on those 2 additional sets. And how much does it actually give you? I don't know. The speculated range is 10 to 30% more gains compared to 3x5 for a novice lifter. I don't know how valid that claim is. I think it'd be less than most people would expect. That's why I say 3 sets of 5 or 5x5 are both really good. But you can choose whatever fits your recovery the best, or whatever fits your scheduling the best. Is incline bench a variation of the regular bench, or should it be considered its own lift with its own variations like grip, pause? The weights you use are significantly less. The movement pattern is completely different. I would not consider an incline press the same as a regular bench. The closest thing to regular bench is going to be changing the grip a little bit, you know? But that said, yes, you can include different variations like pausing and touch and go. That's a good way to mix up the exercises. So if you're following a concurrent routine, you can do that. You can switch from regular incline touch and go to maybe an incline close grip with a pause. Works very good, and it will override the biological law of accommodation. What do you think about eating from 4 and more eggs a day? I don't think this is a good idea for long-term health. Eggs are very high in cholesterol, and when you consume cholesterol, it raises your serum levels. The only way you can prove otherwise is if your baseline consumption is above 0. It's comparable to a person who's consuming 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and you add a little bit more. If your baseline is above 0, then when you study cholesterol, you don't see a rise in serum levels, okay? But someone like me who consumes none, if I were to do 4 eggs a day or more, there will be a rise, and that will be measurable. So if you look at properly done studies, you'll find this correlation to be true. So don't look at studies flawed by design or studies that are funded by the egg industry. Look at a proper design where it deals with the actual truth. Now, what does this rise in cholesterol mean? Well, it puts you at risk for heart disease. Simple as that. And that's why it's best to reduce animal products in general. I'm not saying you have to go vegan, all right? You don't have to do that. But it should be minimized. And eggs are very high in cholesterol. And if you're eating 4 or more every single day, there will be a rise. My personal recommendation is that it should be 5-10% of the diet, or a few eggs a week, nothing crazy. But 4 plus a day, you will see an increase. Yeah. What do you think is the best shoulder builder? Just a regular barbell overhead press. I think if you get stronger at that, your shoulder's going to be nice, man. So if you start off with 95 pounds for 5 reps and you take it to your body weight for 5 reps, there will be a significant increase in shoulder strength and size. If you could take it even higher than that, maybe 185 for reps, you're going to have amazing shoulders. Imagine if you do 185 full range of motion for 10 reps. Bro, your shoulder's going to look amazing for a natural. Imagine you could overhead press 225 for a single or many repetitions. You're going to have great shoulders, no question about that. And if you supplement it with accessories on the side, you are perfect, man. Imagine if you're doing band face pulls, rear delt flies, side raises, like you're isolating and you're doing the compound simultaneously. Now that's going to give you some damn good shoulders. Also recognize this, the journey to getting a 225 overhead press is so challenging that you're probably going to include other variations to supplement that. Which means with all these extra movements, you're going to get additional stimuli. So I'm going to say, make the overhead press your goal. Get stronger at that, and you'll get bigger shoulders. Bro, I want to master the planche push-up and the one-arm pull-up. Can I achieve them in 3 months? P.S. I can do 15 bodyweight pull-ups and knee tuck planche push-ups. Well, my friend, these are moves that take quite a long time to build up to, you know. And 3 months, I think many would call that unrealistic, especially if you're only doing 15 pull-ups. I don't think you're going to go from 15 bodyweight pull-ups to a one-arm pull-up in 3 months. Just my opinion. Now, in regards to the planche push-up, you're already doing tucked. That's pretty good. So maybe you could get that part. But I would say in regards to the pull-ups, one arm, no, I don't think so. I don't think so, man. That will require a lot more specificity. And there are people who follow me who are really, really good at calisthenics, both weighted and without, like doing advanced moves and everything. And they're still struggling to get the one-arm pull-up. It's a very tough exercise to get to. And usually the criteria is to get 75% of your body weight for one rep max, plus doing specific drills at the same time. And in my opinion, 15 is definitely not enough to fulfill that. Like, it just isn't. But the planche push-ups, I don't know, give it a shot. You're already at tuck. That's a very good step. How to get a bicep vein? What body fat percentage you need for this? Well, it's going to be a combination of being super lean and your genetics. Like for me, I've never been a veiny guy, period. Even when I am super lean, the veins are not like crazy. They're just not. And I find that a lot of drug users are the ones who are the veiniest, just saying. So there's that too to factor in. But I know that for me, man, like for example, I'm 165 right now. My bicep vein is really not as visible as it used to be. Only 5 pounds caused that difference. When I was at 160, you were able to see it. Okay, you could see some of my pictures where I show you the vein and it's like, whoa, it's prominent, it's popping out. Now it's like, it's really, really faded. And that's only 5 pounds difference. So I think there's a huge genetic component in regards to that. Some people are just naturally veinier than others. There's one guy I knew at the gym. He must have been 20% body fat or more. He had a super veiny bicep, like straight in the middle, like just popping all the freaking time. Some people, when they get lean, they're just full of veins everywhere. They got the neck veins popping out. They got even veins in the lower abs. So yeah, it really is a combination of all those factors. So I'm going to say, get as lean as you possibly can, you know, and see if you got the veins. Some people, even the faces, like me, I'm a perfect example of this. Even when I'm super lean, my face, it holds more fat, man. It's crazy. But I naturally have like a rounder face, even when I'm really lean. So that is a genetic component. Some people, depending on your fat distribution, this is going to affect things, all right? So I'm just going to say get as lean as you possibly can, and get as jacked as you can as well, and let the rest take care of itself. Alex, people usually have volume and intensity days. What are your thoughts on a weighted stretch day? Interesting idea. Very interesting. So maybe you do a rack pull above the knee and some weighted hangs on the weighted pull-up. Maybe some tricep stretching with weights and some bicep stretching with weights. It's a fascinating idea. I've never tried that myself, but maybe I should, you know. I don't know how that would affect recovery because if you're doing weighted stretching, you're obviously going to be using heavy weights unless, of course, you're doing it with sub-maximal weight. So you do that as a light day. So let's say you're doing full body 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday could be heavy, Wednesday's light with weight stretching, and then Friday will be volume. I could see something like that working. I need to experiment with this to give you a better answer. But I do know that you're going to gain muscle for certain movements, like the rack pulls and all that. You're going to be fine. Like just doing a hold, that's going to work 100%. So I don't know. It's you got me thinking about it now. You got me thinking. I look decent in a shirt. It makes my back look bigger and my waist smaller. But shirtless, I just look fat. Should I judge my physique on how I look in clothing or without it? However you want to judge it. What's the most important thing to you? Do you want to look massive in clothes? Or do you want to look like better when you take the shirt off, but a bit smaller in clothes? Again, it goes back to one of the questions we had earlier. It's subjective. You want to be Mr. Lean or be Mr. Massive, I don't know how fat you actually look. I have no clue. I haven't seen your body. But if you're above 20%, then you should be cutting irrespective of the fact that you look big in clothes, because that's not healthy. So get to a decent body fat percentage. I'm going to say between 15 and 20%. And then assess it from there. If you want to be a little bit leaner, go ahead. If you want to be in that fluffier state, remain. Okay, but just make sure that you're in a healthy body fat range and then decide what your goals are. Only you could decide what you want, all right? Hey, Alex, I'm going through a massive 6-month plateau on my conventional deadlift. I've tried everything, literally everything. Is this my natural limit? Deadlift 140 kilos, bench 120 kilos, squat 140 kilos. Okay, my friend, no, this is not your natural limit. In fact, I would say you can easily add another 100 kilos to your deadlift, all right? No problem. This is guaranteed if you ask me. This is definitely a programming issue. It's, first of all, your squat and deadlift are the same. That's already problematic. Are you squatting too high? Or do you just have really bad leverages for deadlifts? I'm going to say your squat, you might be squatting above parallel. So maybe your squat is not in the 3s. It's actually in the 2s, mid 2s, all right? If that is true, that also means that you're really good at the bench, all right? 120 kilogram bench, that's what, 265 bench press? That's very good. That's very, very good. So it seems to me like you're more, like it's possible you have better leverages for bench. Like you just have short arms, and maybe that's where your deadlift is stalling so hard. But at the same time, your programming, in my view, is better for the pressing, inferior for the lower body. Because your bench is way too close to your squat and deadlift. That should not be the case. Those two numbers should be a lot higher. That ratio is not balanced, okay? So in my opinion, it's a programming issue. You say you tried everything. I don't believe that for a second. So what I'm going to recommend to you, okay, because you came to Alpha Destiny, I'm going to give you my response. Fuck all the other guys, right? I'm going to give you my response. Is to do concurrent periodization, where you have a volume day and intensity day, and you rotate specific variations that build up your deadlift, all right? So you might be doing more deficit deadlifts, stiff-legged deadlifts, maybe on your volume days. You're doing RDLs, smashing the lower back and abs hard, doing a lot of rows to complement your pulls. Basically, you're building up everything so you have no weak links, and you're using difficult variations that automatically raise your conventional deadlift. That's my advice. Concurrent all the fucking way. Back when I ran minimalist routines, I always had plateaus. I even plateaued on the bench, and now bench is one of my best lifts, all right? The moment I introduced higher exercise selection, I was maxing out all the freaking time, going heavy, doing volume, and I stopped riding the roller coaster of volume and intensity. My gains reach a whole new freaking level. That's what I'm going to recommend you do the same. You're having this plateau for 6 months? Okay, run concurrent. Try it out. And I believe that your numbers are going to skyrocket very, very quickly. Alex, can I incorporate reverse grip bench into the novice program? I suppose you could, but why? Why would you do that? Unless you have like a serious shoulder issue, I don't see why you would do that. Just run the basic system as written. Do a standard floor press or pause bench. Hit some close grip bench for the B day. You're going to be fine. I don't know why you're doing reverse grip bench unless you have some type of limitation. There's just no need to do that. So in my opinion, you should keep it simple, but would the system work if you did reverse grip bench? Yes, it would. All right, last question of the week. It might seem like a silly question, but how do you stay consistent, like really consistent? Okay, my friend, going to the gym and lifting weights and being part of the strength world, the bodybuilding world, it needs to be a part of your life. And I mean a serious part of your life where you're never going to skip workouts. You're not going to eat unhealthy foods. You're going to be going to the gym religiously whether you feel like it or not. It needs to become a legitimate habit. It's not like those guys who sign up for the New Year's resolutions and then a month later they're gone. Like you're going to be that guy who's always showing up on time. You're going to be that guy who makes amazing gains. People will look up to you. They will ask you for advice. You're going to be that dude who's one of the bosses of the gym. Okay, not in terms of working there, but in terms of having a great physique. All right, you're going to be that guy. And the only way this can be accomplished is if you take it seriously, you know? You got to build up that habit, be extremely consistent by forcing yourself through discipline, through willpower, and just developing that habit. And they say it takes about 21 to 30 days to build a habit. So give yourself that at least. But this is something that is accumulated over a long period of time. Like I can't bring myself to not work out. I can't do it, okay? It's because I love it so much. And that's going to bring me on to another point. You should like what you're doing. If you don't like this particular style of lifting, then switch it. Maybe bodybuilding is not for you. Maybe you should do strongman. If you don't like strongman, maybe you should do wrestling or freaking boxing. I don't know. You got to find out what you like doing. Me, I like bench pressing. I like calisthenics. I like challenging my body in weird ways, if you will. And I have workout ADHD, where my goals change a lot. It's just the way it is for me. So you're asking a guy who's never been really 100% consistent with his goals, per se. I've always been consistent with the training. And whenever I do set a new goal, I usually do really, really well. So whatever I've set my mind to, I do really well, and I stay consistent with that until I get bored of it. Okay, and I can be really close to the end goal, but I'm just going to say, fuck it. And I switch to something else. That's just how I'm wired. And that goes for everything in life, not just lifting. It could be a video game. If it's the same thing over and over again, I get bored. That's also why concurrent is so perfect for me, because it gives me the freedom to have fun, to experiment. I can't be bored out of my mind. You know, I've spoken to some guys, like when I talked to Omar Isuf, he told me, man, I can do the same thing as long as I want. I don't get bored. I was like, man, I don't know how you do it. I get bored as hell doing that. So that's why I need variety, and that's why my goals change too. I'm always going from one thing to the next. I'm not really consistent in regards to that. So maybe that's something I need to work on, you know? But what I can say is that I've always been consistent with the lifestyle. Like training and eating healthy and all that is always going to be a part of me. And it will be a part of you too once you adapt to it. Once you give yourself enough time, you build that habit. Okay, so this is something that serious lifters don't really have problems with. They just don't. Especially if you're making good gains. If you know how to train correctly, you know how to eat properly, you'll always be making gains, you know? As an advanced lifter, it will be slower, and sometimes it could be quite frustrating in that regard. But you like the gains. You enjoy the process, and it's a challenge for you in a sense, you know? And if you compete, even better, because now you got even higher motivation to do things. So you got to find out what drives you. What makes you get up and want to go to the gym? What makes you want to stay healthy? Find out what those reasons are and pursue them to the absolute max, you know? And don't let anybody else influence your goals. Make sure you're lifting for the right reasons. Make sure you're lifting for you. Enjoy what you're doing, and just have some freaking discipline, you know? And build up that habit over time, and I think everything's going to be just fine. So that's my advice for you, to be consistent. I hope this makes sense. And with that said, we are done with this Q&A video. Post more questions down below, and I will see you next week.